As natives who hunted and gathered, I will be discussing these rights and when they were no longer valid. I will also be discussing how we are as a tribe trying to reestablish these rights in the Canadian side of the border and reestablish these for our next generation. And now, how many of you have ever went hunting, fishing, or gathering and brought this home for food? As a youth, I did this as well. I remember going across the Canadian side of the border with my mom and gathering berries and bringing them across the border with no problems. Would you ever give up your rights to hunt, fish, or gather, even if you were born on the other side of a line drawn on the map? Not many. The Snakes were forced into this predicament in 1846 when the Oregon Treaty was signed and the 49th parallel on the north side of Washington was established. And as you can see, the Okanagan Territory and the Lakes Territory was severely cut off on the northern side. Then in 1872, President Grant signs the executive order that establishes the original Caldwell Reservation. And it is established at several million acres. Less than a few weeks later, in July of 1872, the reserve is resized to 2.8 million acres. Most of the Snakes and the Okanagan natives were forced on the Caldwell Reservation as it was one of the last spots left that was safe for them. Most of the Snakes came to the Kelly Hill area here in yellow, the Okanagans on the Okanagan River side here in the gray areas. In 1892, the Caldwell Reservation was once again resized and cut in half to 1.4 million acres, forcing most of the natives even further south away from their homeland. The Snakes moved to the Inchlim area where we still reside here in the green areas and in the blue, and the Okanagans moved further south along the Okanagan here in the pink and light brown areas. In 1902 in Oatscott, British Columbia, there was another small reserve established, and there in 1924 there was a census done and 8 Snakes members were recognized. But in 1953, Annie Joseph passed away, and the last of the Snakes passed and were declared extinct once again by the provincial government. This was another technical end to our rights in the Canadian border. To begin reestablishing our rights, Virgil Seymour and Rick Digital, along with others, have been doing some work in Canada for the Caldwell Confederated Tribes. I'm informed by Virgil Seymour, the Arrow Lakes facilitator of the Caldwell Tribes, that we technically are allowed to gather in our traditional areas, which extend all the way to the mouth of the Columbia down to below the Kettle Falls. Most of the gathering still goes along the Arrow Lakes, the upper and lower side. He has also informed me that some other traditional ways, such as reburying our ancestral remains, one which will happen this Sunday, the 22nd, along the north end of the lower Arrow Lakes. According to Rick Digital, the game enforcement officer for the Caldwell Confederated Tribes, said he has hunted 4 times since 2010 in the Snakes traditional area, mostly around the Castlegar and Lower Arrow Lakes area. 3 of these 4 times he was successful, and he was doing this hunting for the Okanagan and Snakes bands to reestablish our rights in Canada. In 2012, he was cited by the local game officer for hunting without a license. He was also cited for hunting out of season, and these 12 2012 charges were later dropped. In 2013, he went hunting and was met by a game officer who later cited him for non-resident hunting and no hunting license. These charges are still ongoing and most likely will be dragged into federal court, which could be a process that could take 20 years, possibly even longer. When these courts are decided in, court, if it goes in our favor, our hunting, fishing, gathering, and traditional prayer rights will be reestablished at the best. And at the worst is we could lose all hunting rights above the Canadian border, and this would include the gathering rights, which go hand in hand. When these rights are finally established, finally resolved, and we have full or some rights established, this will be good news for our next generation, who will not have to worry about going back to where our people have been hunting and gathering for thousands of years. When it comes time to hunt, they will be able to hunt, fish, and gather for their family. They will also be able to go to sites such as this traditional pit house, which very few remain, as most were buried underwater due to the flooding of the dam. Having our hunting rights in Canada will help, as there are vast resources, which is one of the reasons as a people we made this area home in the first place. In conclusion, as natives, we are very gracious to have people fighting to establish our rights for the next generation and future generations. So when you are home, eating game you killed, fish you caught, or wild berries you have gathered, enjoy it, because it is not always a right you may have, and it is harder than it seems to get back. Go ahead, your son.